Now, 90 times out of 100, that is bullshit. That's today's video. I'm gonna go through 6 red flags for real estate agents and realtors that buyers and sellers should know. Hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, you can find my contact information in the description box with regards to my Gmail, my Instagram, and my office. Feel free to get in touch with me with any questions you have about the Toronto real estate market or real estate in general. Furthermore, as always, feel free to subscribe, comment, and like this video if you happen to enjoy my videos. If not, do the opposite. Feel free to dislike, unsubscribe, and leave a negative but hopefully constructive comment. Anyways, let's get to the point of today's video, which is, according to my experience working as a real estate agent, what 6 red flags buyers and sellers should look out for when they're looking to work with real estate agents. And unfortunately, as I've discovered and covered in my previous videos, the barrier of entry to becoming a real estate agent in the city of Toronto and the province of Ontario is very, very low. So when the barrier is low, naturally you get a lot of people getting involved in real estate who are not good at real estate. They're not good at microeconomics, they're not good at negotiating, they're not good as salespeople, talking to people, being a people's person. They're just in it for the money. And one last thing before I get to the 6 items on this list, I just want to clarify that if you've worked with an agent who has exhibited 1 or 2 of these things on the list, it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad people. They can be inexperienced as well, right? So these red flags are not all having to do with a money-hungry real estate agent or a pushy salesperson. It can also do with a person who has the right intentions and down the line will become a great real estate agent, but they're new at the moment in which you came across their services, and at that moment they exhibited, as a result of their inexperience, one of these red flags. Anyways, having said all that, let's get to the list. Number 1, your real estate agent does not understand the real estate market as it relates to your specific needs and desires. So let me explain this a little bit further. If you're looking for a property, let's say it's a semi-detached property in Mississauga in the range of $750 to $850 in a specific neighborhood, if your realtor does not have a good understanding of the market trends in that area and the stats, the sold prices, the comparables, what to deduct and what to add when making those comparables, and the value to put on what they deduct and add. For instance, if 2 properties are very much so similar, but one happens to have an additional washroom, the other one does not have that additional washroom, how to account for that. If you get a feeling that they don't know what they're talking about, as most often exemplified by the fact that their estimates will be way off, then that's a red flag. Now, let me make one thing clear, right? If you ask your real estate agent, hey, this house down the street that we saw, how much do you think it can sell for? And they give you a range, and it's very, very off the actual reality of the matter. It sells for much higher or much lower than the range they provided. That is a red flag. Now, I think that's reasonable because us real estate agents, we can't be expected to predict the future because a lot of times buyers overpay for something. A lot of times sellers actually undersell the property. Yes, you'd be surprised. So we cannot account for unreasonable people in the market. But if your real estate agent does give you a reasonable estimate based on assumptions such as reasonable people in a free and open market, transacting a commodity and the current rates that commodity is going for, if they give you a range and the sold price at the end of the day is far, far above or below that range, that could be a red flag. Number 2, your real estate agent does not understand the forms and the contracts involved in a purchase and sale scenario or a residential lease scenario. There is a lot of fine print, and if you ask your real estate agent, what does this mean? And if you get an understanding that they do not know what they're talking about within reason, that is a red flag. Now, let me make sure to say this. Real estate agents, we are not expected to be real estate lawyers. For instance, if you ask them, hey, this clause states something about the deposit, what is it really talking about? What does it mean? What duties do I have and obligations I have? And your real estate agent gives you an explanation, not reading off the contract word by word, but an understanding and exhibits a true understanding of the clause, but obviously not an understanding a lawyer would have because a lawyer is a legal professional, but good enough for you to understand what they're talking about. That's enough. So you can't expect your real estate agent to be a professional real estate lawyer, but at the same time, you can have the expectations that they would know more than you would. Number 3, real estate agent makes a lot of claims that cannot be verified. So what does this mean? If you work with a real estate agent, as I say sometimes, they bring up their other transactions. You know, I bought this house last year and they loved it. Oh, I sold someone's house down that street. Oh, you know this in person. They live in that condo? Well, funny enough, I actually have 2 listings in that condo where I found this person a place to rent, you know, 2 months ago. Whatever the claim is, as I make when I'm talking to my clients, if I'm using examples in my experience, you have to be able to verify those claims, because a lot of real estate agents have a sense of pride, and if they talk about how many houses they sold, how many houses they bought, how there was a $5 million deal they did last summer, they believe actually a lot of people will not question it. Now, obviously, unfortunately, this is the case. So what I would suggest to you is, if your realtor makes a claim, such as the claims I've just mentioned, and you cannot verify it, if you cannot ask him, well, can you show me the sold data on that transaction you said you were involved with, or can you show me a copy of the listing you currently have? Can I find it online? Can I, get a referral, someone who I can talk to, who put a good word for you, that can prove this happened? If you ask and request for such verification and cannot provide it for you, then that's somewhat of a red flag, because most likely what they're doing is lying or exaggerating the truth to make them seem better in your eyes. There's a lot of ways to do sales without lying, but a lot of people decide to launch and lie. Now, obviously, you cannot expect your real estate agent to break confidentiality, right? You can't ask them, hey, prove that this is your client, this seller was your client, and give me their names, because it's confidential. But there are ways that the real estate agent will not break confidentiality, that you can actually request for them to verify that they were involved with the past transaction that they claim to be. Number 4, and probably the most important one on this list, is if your real estate agent is commission driven. Whether it's working with a buyer or a seller, if you figure out that your real estate agent, and I'll provide smaller red flags, but if you figure out from these smaller red flags that your real estate agent is far too concerned about commission and not what's best for their buyer or seller, which in this case, an example is you, then it is a red flag. Now, how can this manifest itself? Well, let me give you an example. Let's say you're about to see 15 properties in the course of 2 weeks. You're flexible, but you're not in a rush. And the second day, seeing the 3rd property out of the 15 you were supposed to see, they say, oh, you have to put an offer on this right now. Now, 90 times out of 100, that is bullshit. That's BS. What is that 10 out of 100? Well, there are certain circumstances where the market is so hot and your circumstances are in a tight window of time, and you see something and you genuinely do like it and it's genuinely good for you in terms of investment. Yes, if the stars align, if your realtor tells you you have to put an offer on this right now, that is an acceptable form of that statement. Those 10 times out of 100, your real estate agent is most likely not trying to just get paid for a deal. But the remainder 90 times out of 100, most likely they are trying to just get paid, and they're tired of working with you, or they don't want to put in more time and effort, and they are too commission focused. Another way is if they keep pushing you toward the more expensive properties, because obviously the way we get paid is by percentage of the sale price. And if the sale price is higher, their commission check will be higher as well. So if they're pushing you to the most expensive options, and they're saying, hey, these less expensive options are not good for you, and if that's not the case, then yes, most likely that is a red flag. But most people hopefully can tell if your real estate agent is genuinely offering you to put an offer on a property that's the most expensive versus them just doing it to get paid. And if it's a continual trend of them doing this, then there's an issue. Another mini red flag of this is if they're too positive all the time. If they're too positive all the time, every time you go see a property, they're saying, oh wow, this is fantastic, this is great, look at this, look at that, and they're just fawning over every single property you see and never bring up a negative aspect in any sense, then once again, they're just too sales focused, they're just looking to get paid. Real estate agents should always provide both positives and negatives associated with any property. Second to last, number 5, if they're always late. Now, I want to always preface, we're human. Being late occurs. However, if they're always late, if they're picking you up or meeting you at a property or meeting you for coffee, if they are always late, that is the number 1 sign of disorganization. And if they're disorganized, you probably cannot bank on them doing the best job they possibly can for you. All right, number 6, and the last item on this list, which more so concerns sellers, is that if your real estate agent has too many listings in the same street or immediate block, right? So you may wonder, well, why is this a bad thing? If this is the case, doesn't this mean that my real estate agent is a really good agent and everyone in this area is choosing to work with them? So meaning they're, big name and they have a huge network. In part, the network part, the large network part is implied. However, let me tell you why the rest of it is not true, and necessarily the number of listings that real estate agent has in a given street or block does not necessarily mean they're good. Let me give you an example. Say there's a street and the street has 200 houses, right? Any prudent real estate agent, if they had the ability to get 10 of these properties out of this 100, right? 10 of them on the market at the same time, meaning there's 10 sellers, 10 homeowners saying, I want to sell my house right now. I'm going to sign a contract right now. Let's put it on the market. Any real estate agent who knows what the hell they're doing would look at the properties, the 10 in question, and say, okay, what is the spectrum here? Or do we have, one of them is just a, 50-year-old townhome. The other one is a 2-story detached property that was built last week. They look at the spectrum, the range of properties, and they take the properties that are the most alike on that spectrum, that continuum of properties, and they say, I'm not gonna list all this at the same time. And they prioritize by whose case is the most immediate. Because if this real estate agent decides to list all these 10 properties that in certain cases can all be alike, he is doing his own clients injustice, because now his own clients are competing against each other and buyers can leverage his own clients that he brought on the market against one another, and you know what? Everyone loses out. They don't actually care about being able to sell the property. They actually prioritize the promotional aspect of having their sign on your lawn. Anyways, that was a long video. I'm sorry to talk your ear off. If you have any further questions, feel free to get in touch with me in the comments or in my Gmail. My Gmail is in the description. Furthermore, feel free to subscribe, comment, like, and review. And yeah, please stay in touch. Thank you very much.